رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بك من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال سبحانه وتعالى في الكتاب المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal on this beautiful day of Jumu'ah, where we all collect to remember Allah, where we all come to remember Allah and recite His remembrance. And we gather to remind each other about a day when we shall gather again, a day when we will need forgiveness and His mercy. We recognize our shortcomings and therefore we're here to seek forgiveness of all that we have done in the past and all that we intend to do in terms of good work. We seek istiqamah, we seek consistency in all the good work that we do. I remind you of the ayah that mentions, after mentioning the shahada, the pledge of allegiance as a believer, that there is no higher authority, there is no priority beyond Allah. There is no goal other than Allah. Everything else comes under it, right? So we live our lives, we smile for the sake of Allah. We do good charity for the sake of Allah. We work for the sake of Allah. We live for the sake of Allah, and we die for the sake of Allah. And this is not just a mantra or something, some words that just come out and don't mean anything and feel good and fluff. No, this is a way of a believer's life. And our model, if you look at it, all the prophets and messengers, but specifically Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he showed us the way to pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what it's all about. So we don't get distracted as a community with other things, right? There are many people who are distracted by life. But so I remind you and myself of the shahada, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's our priority. That I bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship, no higher authority or priority except Allah. That's how I'm going to live my life. That is my pledge. That is my promise. And this way of life, as it's taught by the last of the messengers sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of the messengers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the servant and the Rasul, a messenger of God. And also recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us, O you who believe, meaning, O you who believe, all of us inshallah. Have taqwa of Allah, be God conscious, as you out to have taqwa, as you are well aware how to be God conscious, where in your life you're supposed to make the right turn and not the left turn, where in your life you're supposed to keep going straight and not stop or go backwards. That's what taqwa is all about. اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون, and live your life as believers and do not die except as someone who has submitted to Allah, someone who has surrendered to Allah. And this is a high task, this is a big challenge. But I want to, inshallah, today's khutbah, I want to talk about a mindset of believer, or a winner's, or psychology of a believer, or winners. Who are these people who have the right mindset, inshallah? And all of us, as we're going through this time that we spend in this dunya, all of us go through and do muhasabah, take an account of our lives. There are so many things that happen, and that is true, that life, it seems sometimes that it's so much, too overbearing, too stressful, the anxiety, the work, the death in the family, the relationship gone wrong, the people who honor or dishonor, the people you can't trust, business, and all these things that we look at. So many things could go wrong. And it levels, right? The ayah that in the Quran talks about musibah, right? Musibah comes in, difficulty, right? Comes in, calamity comes in different ways. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some people He tests them with health issues. Other people He tests them with wealth issues. Some people He tests them with mental issues, right? Where their mental capabilities and abilities. And so on and so forth. So I wanted to talk about the life of a believer. And the Prophet ﷺ first talked about that as a context to all of this. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ, that strange is the case of a believer. إِنَّ أَمْرُهُ كُلُّهُ خَيْرٌ, that it's all of his affairs are good. He said this is a strange thing. Right? He's addressing our focus, right? That it's a strange thing, meaning it's a good thing. All of it is good. وَلَيْسَ ذَاكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ, and this is not for anyone except for a believer, right? Except for a mu'min. إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاء شَكَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. If good times, he's afflicted, if good times come, he is thankful. He shows gratitude. His attitude is of gratitude. And that is great for him. And then the other side of the coin, وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاء صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And if calamity comes, musibah comes, he's patient. And this is great news for him again. This is great thing for him as well. So the Prophet is giving us good times and bad times. They're both good for a believer because his mindset or her mindset, a believer, is very different from other people. Right? Because we're here to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're here to recognize that it's going to be between sabr and shukr, gratitude and patience. And so I want to mention that, yes, there is something called perfectly happy life, and they live happily ever after. You have to start by opening a Facebook account, if you're interested in that. That's where all the shiny, happy, they live happily ever after, shiny clothes and shiny vacation time, and all that stuff exists. But reality is both, right? Sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's easy. And if you focus on your inabilities, that's the gist of it. If you focus on what you can't perform and do, soon it will happen so that you would lose your mental stability. If we focus on things that we can do, oh, how come this is wrong? How come that is wrong? People focus on problems and less time on solutions. And a lot of times what we have to recognize is that we have to shift our focus from self-pity when we're going through issues and troubles and stress and anxiety. From self-pity to God piety. Right? Oh, why me? So many things are wrong. Why does it happen? Why such and such? And it's just the self-pity that people wallowing in. And if they just take that self-centered approach instead of doing that to God piety, then they have a relationship with Allah. It is coming from Allah. And so the Prophet ﷺ has taught us the way to it. And also the fact that prayer, this is something if you walk away from here and take nothing from this khutbah, take this with you, inshallah. And I experienced it, and I'm sure many of you have observed it and experienced it as a truth. Prayer, dua, leads to miracles. We're going through tough times. It all starts with dua. And I'm going to give you a story. This happened a few years back. Nothing big, but you know how we get stressed out about things. And again, the khutbah is about mindset of a believer, psychology of a Muslim. We get stressed out about. So I was working, and I performed work as a wetland scientist or expert. And there was this dealership, auto dealership, and we were doing some stream restoration or wetland work. And I came and I talked to these people, and I go and I'm doing my business, my work. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, where's my wallet? I had everything in there, in terms of ID and, license, money, everything. And I can't find my wallet. So I'm looking for it, I'm stressed out. So I go back in my car, I'm looking for my wallet. It's not in the car. Open up the trunk. Maybe I put it with all the other equipment. Walk back the path where I went inside the forest area and things like that. Where is the wallet? Can't find it. Really stressed out about it. Go back and trace everything where I've been, and it's been hours, and finally go back, sit in the car, and like ready to go home without the wallet. It's lost, I guess. And at that time when I can't figure anything else out, when you hit the wall, what do? Right? So I start making dua. I'm like, oh Allah, Ya Allah. I can't do this. I tried everything. And at that time, said, I haven't gone back to the dealership and talked to them. Maybe perhaps I should let them know. And I'm making this dua, and I'm like, all right, it's over, right? I gotta get this fixed. I go back, and this person walks out the door and like, Mr. Khan, is this your wallet? Because we saw your license in there. And they kind of walked back to me, and then they gave me. I was like, had I made the dua first, I would not have gone through these hours of rigmarole, right, of going through this. But that's the nature of dunya. The nature of this dunya is that it would challenge us. It would give us all these issues and problems. And until we turn back to Allah and recognize the whole thing was all about, the setup is all about going back to Allah and making dua. So prayer leads to miracles. And many times you come across many young people that I advise, like Rutgers and other places, and if this is like doom and gloom, if this doesn't happen, my life is worthless. I'm not worth anything. My parents are going to disown me, and the world's going to just look down at me, and I'm done. It might be a grade or a report card or marriage issues or like travel or other things, and they may talk about this, but we have to recognize, if you're not dead, stop rehearsing. If you're not dead, stop rehearsing. Don't bring in doom and gloom every time that we're going through anxiety and issues. It's just a problem. The simple fact is that problems demand action from us. And it's all, as a believer, either you're in this action, the boat of sabr or shukr, gratitude, right, or patience. And this is what's really all about. So, recognizing that as believers we have, inshallah, starting with the mental stability. That is the best thing that we start with in terms of our response to everything that happens around us. And you may be someone that other people look up to. When others are saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, as we go through calamities that happen, whether it's the death or job-related issues or other stress or life anxieties and issues, when we go through all of that stuff, yes, we say obviously we belong to Allah and we shall return back to Him. But someone has to take charge at that time. Someone has to guide the family. Someone has to deliver. Someone has to take care of things. And this is, if we don't have that mental stability and leadership, then we simply wait and not follow the right path or the right course. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Those, for surely individuals, who say that Allah is my Lord, and they're steadfast. right? They're patient. استقاموا ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة. Angels will descend upon them. ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا. Don't be afraid. Have sorrow, right? Anxiety. ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. And have glad tidings, good news of Jannah that you have been promised. And when will this bushra come? This bushra, glad tidings, will come when people are ready to meet their Lord. Right? When you are ready to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to see the angels when they come and meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to recognize that life wasn't meant to be all stress and anxiety and all these issues of doom and gloom. And had it been like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have simply picked out people and He would have let us know, right? John, Sally, Peter, Samantha, I'm just picking random names. 24, 19, 32, 63. What are these numbers? Oh, those two, they're going to pass away at that age. And the other two, they're going to get cancer at that age. Now imagine had we known that this is what that's what's coming, how would we live our lives? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom, He didn't put that burden on us, but rather He called us upon to whatever comes our way, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, right? Sabr or shukr. Whatever comes our way, this is the way of a believer. So I want you to take it and approach it as Maulana Rumi once mentioned about that if you are annoyed with every rub that you get, if you're annoyed with every rub that you get, how will you ever be polished? This is what the problem's supposed to do. It makes you a better person. And if you look at the example of Musa alayhi salam, when people came, and we were talking about leadership and a believer's response, right? You have the river in front of you, and behind you is Fir'aun and his army. And everybody else said, we're doomed. And Musa alayhi salam, believer's response is, no. Kalla, inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdini. My Lord is with me, He shall guide. Right? Allah is with us, He shall guide us. And a lot of times when we're looking about hitting the wall, right, that issue, yeah, you hit the wall again, you could check your head, right? And that's what the case with it. You have to scale the wall, you have to climb the wall, you have to go around the wall, you have to go underneath. And this is the reason why the issues are there. We have to take a different approach. And that's why what we call is another technique or mindset is 80-20 rule. Most people will spend 80% of the time worrying about the problem, and 20% of the time solving the problem. Right? Whenever you come across a crisis, right, 80% of the time should be dedicated to what is the solution. Lost my job. How am I going to tackle that? My child is sick. How am I going to tackle this issue? I'm going to take care of this child. Right? Instead of worrying about, oh, I can't find a ride to work. Instead of worrying about it, how am I going to take care of it? So this is a way of a proactive way. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is what we could do. Nighttime, every time before we put our heads to the pillow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَآتَاكُمْ كُلَّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُ وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. He gave you everything that you asked for. He gave you everything that you could have asked for. What do you need? Oxygen, shelter, food, place to sleep, family, community. He gave you everything. Guidance, right? How to live your life. And if you try to count the blessings of Allah, you shall not be able to count them. Right? You shall not be able to enumerate them. Meaning you can't just get there. But once we start practicing just this, simple idea of sitting down and saying, Alhamdulillah for family, Alhamdulillah because a lot of times what happens is that people have 1% of their life, right, issue in their feeling a headache or some other issue. The doctor's report came out and it's not looking good. Right? The sugar is too high, what they say, right? Whatever the case is. And they focus immediately on that. And they forget that the 99% of the other part of their life is wealth. Right? We have to be thankful for that roof on top. We have to be thankful for that job that we got. We have to be thankful for that loving family that we have, the relationships that we have. We have to be thankful for the basic fact that there's safety and security. We have to be thankful for the fact that we could come to the masjid with a community that we belong to a religion of Islam and a community of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? We're not some islands out there aloof, right? Rather, we're together in this. And that is recognizing, right? Not focusing on the problem, but focusing on all of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And that involves a mindset of a believer focusing again on the solution, focusing on the right thing, right? The right attitude of gratitude. Look at how in the Quran, when magicians were told, they were tasked, this is Musa, go ahead, perform your magic, and put him down, basically. And it turned out the other way, that the magicians recognized this is not a magic that's happening with Musa alayhi salam and his staff. This is a miracle. There's something at work beyond what we could recognize. And when that happened, they said, we believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun. And Fir'aun got really upset. He said, I will punish you X, Y, and Z, and I'll do this to your body, and I'll do this and that and this. And they said, like, no problem. Right? Inna ila rabbina lamunqalibun. Their focus is on totally something else. Right? Instead of, oh my God, he's gonna put us on a cross and mutilate our bodies, right? It's a gruesome act that he was gonna do. Right? Imagine yourself to be just in that court, and there they are, and they said, no problem. We'll meet our Lord. We'll have a meeting with our Lord. What better could that be? Something better than that. And that's what they're looking for, because their focus is not this big thing that Fir'aun could do, but their focus is on the big meeting with their Lord. And that's what the gist of it, right? That our mental health demands that, yes, level-headedness will be there. And everybody, this is not to say when people are good Muslims, they don't have mental health issues or psychological stuff, right? Or problems at home. No, that's not true. People go through depression, people go through anxiety. That's just part of being a believer, right? That, or being a human. But for us, we have to recognize that there are ways around it. We don't have to keep hitting our head against the wall. So what did they say, the magicians? They said a beautiful dua that inshallah all of us remember when we go through any of that stuff. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. Lord Allah, put upon us, pour down, that's the word. And I want to give an analogy here too. Pour down upon us patience, sabr. And when you take our lives, make us amongst those who are Muslims. And this is the dua that they made. A couple of years ago, if you remember, this ALS ice bucket challenge, right? Where people would simply pour over ice water, and then they would say, I nominate so-and-so for the challenge, right? This was to raise awareness over a disease or a health issue that people have. And so they would do that, and they would make videos and all that stuff, right? I mean, think about it. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. Right? You're all in that state, right? When you put that ice water, you're cold, right? But now when you put that patience over you, you're in the state of sabr. Nothing, right? Yeah, you recognize it's hard. It's not that you're immune to it, but your mindset, your focus is on something greater than the problem itself, right? We're not focused on problem or issue itself, but rather we're focused on Allah, our priority. going through it with sabr and shukr, just like. So let's make dua. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Today we're discussing mindset of a believer, how Muslims, right, tackle issues that come across in life. And the Prophet ﷺ, obviously we have, and I'm discussing it from an individual perspective, but of course we have to recognize al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan yashuddu ba'duhu ba'da. A believer to another is like a building or a structure, and one supports the other, right? A brick, you kind of put them right one on top of another. And the Prophet ﷺ, actually, they said in the hadith when they described the narrator, they would put their hands together or their fingers together as if to show how a building is built, right? Visual way of teaching. And the Prophet ﷺ did that to mark a point that, yeah, we're in this together as a community. And when we go through it, obviously, nothing else works. I want to give you the last thing, inshallah. Of course, the dua, focusing on the solution, recognizing this life is temporary, and then making sure that, we are people who are leaders, right? We are the ones who are focusing on the right thing. And lead by example as we are here. Nothing else works. We have to recognize something very beautiful in the Quran. And that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Anybody who has taqwa of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a way out for him or her. That I found in my life to be 100% true. All you have to do is just be steadfast, right? وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And He will provide from where you didn't even expect. You're not even thinking that there's a phone call and your uncle wants to hire you for a six-figure salary. Just saying. It happens. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Whoever puts their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is sufficient. Right? That's what the essence of the matter. Right? All of these are players, right? Sometimes, whether it's the neighbors or the people at the masjid or at co-workers or the boss or spouse at home, these are just players. Allah wants to see from us, how do we respond, right? How stressed out are you, and then how do you respond to these issues, right? In asabat sarra shakara fakana khayrun lah, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, if some good times come and he shows gratitude, that's great for him. But if hard time comes and he shows patience, that's great for him too. Right? So we have to recognize that. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ. That whoever puts their trust in Allah, Allah is sufficient. And He is in charge. And this is what we have to remember. Last thing, inshallah, I would finish it with, inshallah, before making dua. Just a quick story about someone who went to a sheikh. And this person was really stressed out. And, they went and they asked, Sheikh, I just got fired. It's not looking good. I don't have any savings, and it's hard to find work, in this kind of environment. You know the meaning. And, the Sheikh asked him the question, who's in charge? And he was like, my boss, his name is, Alex, whatever. And he's like, he's a micromanager. Really hard. He just embarrasses people. He doesn't know how to deal with people, antisocial, doesn't want to give raise. You do so much and nothing comes your way. It's like, okay. Sheikh asks the second question. How are things at home? And he goes, things, he says, who's in charge? He's like, my wife. He's like, okay. 2 strikes, third one and you're out. So the man said, I don't get it. He said, let me ask you the third question. Who provides for you and your family and takes care of you? Right? Who's in charge? And the man starts crying. He says, you're right. I didn't recognize. It's Allah who's in charge at work, at home, of my life. He says, the sooner you recognize that, you'll recognize everybody else is just a player acting upon a script. It's not about them, it's about you. How do you respond to that script? And if we are patient, alhamdulillah. And if we go through good times, alhamdulillah. And that's the message, inshallah. So, رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا رَبَّنَا عَلَيْكَ توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين آمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقيموا الصلاة